Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Tonight on the ETEP workshop, I am your host Mehreen Salim and I would like to welcome you all. Thank you very much for joining us today. We will start our session in right 5 minutes so that everyone could join. I repeat everyone, the session will start at 8:05 sharp. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Tonight on the ETAP workshop, I am your host Mehreen Salim and I would like to welcome you all. Thank you very much for joining us today. IEEE has always kept an essence in to show of today. Power and Energy Society has brought to you a workshop on ETAP. For this workshop, we have our honorable guest, Mr. Waqar Sheikh. Mr. Waqar Sheikh has an over 10 year of experience on power system analysis, and he is also an ETAP 115 certified. Thank you very much for sir for joining the session. Without further ado, I would like to invite him to start the session. Over to you, sir, Mr. Waqar. You can now start the session.
Thank you very much, Mehreen.
You're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Good day, everyone. I am thankful to IEEE Society and Power Energy Society for inviting me in this event to share my technical experience on the use of ETAP software. Among the students of UET Lahore and the professionals who are joining this workshop across the globe. Before starting this presentation, I would like to briefly introduce myself. Confirm me, Mehreen, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir, please. Yes, it's visible, sir.
Okay, I hold around 10-year experience in the field of power system analysis, design, protection, and electrical product prescription. These are some of the technical expertise you can see here, which relates to power system analysis, protection, design and prescription, and general engineering services. These are some of the international standards that I'm conversant with, and some of the state-of-art tools that I have worked with in my last 10-year career. Presently, I'm working in GES consultant of Saudi Aramco and conducting power system studies for oil and gas sector in Saudi Arabia. These are some of the workshops, certifications and trainings that I have acquired in the last 10 years. And these are some of the experiences voluntarily where I have shared the knowledge among different institutions and the organizations in the past 3 years. Coming back to the main presentation, this presentation about the ETAP software, its interface. Before starting the main subject of the presentation, I would like to share an advice to all those participants who are interested to learn this software. So the advice is whoever who is interested to learn the software and they find any kind of advertisements or they find any kind of training offers where they are invited for the ETAP workshops and they are told that they will be given 5 days or 4 days or 3 days workshop, how to understand the software and how to learn the software. I would strongly encourage everyone to see who is the trainer, what is his background experience, how much time he has served the power system studies market, and then go for such trainings. Okay. And never run for the certificates, because certificates are not the guarantee of that you are knowing about the software, you know the field. Okay. Even the certificate that I have acquired 8 years back, this certificate do not even includes any serial number or anything like that. So the important thing is you know the subject, you know the fundamentals, you know the international standards, and you know how the engine of the software works, and you have a good hands-on experience on the software. So if you want to just learn how the software works, then the best way is to see the YouTube tutorials or to see ETAP website. There are tons of tutorials available to know how this software works. Okay. Now I will go to the contents of this presentation. Firstly, I will discuss about the ETAP interface. Then we will talk about how to correctly use ETAP for conducting distribution network studies. There is an interesting topic for all of you that I have developed called Rule of 9, okay, that you are going to learn today. And then I will go into a case study, which is a load flow analysis of a distribution system related to industrial networks. Finally, we will take questions and I will answer them. So this is the first topic, which is introduction to the ETAP interface. And these are the contents of this topic, which I will go through one by one. You can download the software from their website, from ETAP website. Demo versions are available, and it will enable you to go more in detail. And here I have ETAP 12.6 version in front of me. It doesn't matter whether you are using ETAP 12.6 or the latest version, more or less the features remains the same. The only differences are some updation in the libraries or some improvement in the graphics. For the sake of this first topic, I'm going to open an example from the existing ETAP library, which will enable me to explain the interface of the software. Okay. In addition to this explanation, those who will be reviewing this recording, they can also go into the contents which will be shared among the participants. And these contents are covering all these things which I will be delivering in the next 15 minutes. So there is no need of writing anything. Everything is available here as PDFs. And I will be focusing more on the software side. Now you can see here, this is one typical project already existing in ETAP library. Okay, and what I will do a post-mortem of the software so that you can understand what are the different toolbars, what are the different features. Those features which are most important, I will also explain them. So let us start one by one. You can see here, there is one toolbar here. There is another toolbar here. Okay, and another toolbar hidden here. It's taking some time to load. Okay, anyway, the time it will take, sometimes it also loads the library of the software. So meanwhile, we'll go into the main presentation so that I can outline the topics we are going to learn. First, we will see the overall interface and the various toolbars in ETAP. And then we will talk about 3 important toolbars. Okay. Still it's taking time. Okay. Okay, no problem. Now you can see in this PDF, for example, this is the PDF which shows you the overall interface. Okay. And here we can have different toolbars, and all these toolbars are for some purpose. Okay. I think I have to disconnect it and I have to run it again. Now it seems okay. So now you can see here, firstly, there is a general overview of all the toolbars. Okay, how you can see how many toolbars are there in the ETAP software. The best way is to check into the view menu. You will see they have identified all the different toolbars. We will go into these toolbars one by one, but this is the best place to see how many toolbars are there. Okay, and in my PDF contents, I would like to give you how I have categorized these 2 toolbars. You can see here, for example, the red circled toolbars, I'm calling them as general purpose toolbars. We will go these toolbars in the next few minutes. And then the blue itemed toolbars are AC and DC element toolbars. In fact, there is another additional toolbar called instrument toolbars. It's used for the network modeling. And then the green circled toolbars are related to the system studies, like load flow short circuits. Okay. So let us talk about the project, the general purpose toolbar, where we have 3 types of toolbars: project, system, and mode toolbar. Okay. So if I take out the toolbars from here, so the project toolbar is the first one. You can see right over here in the top. Okay, this is the project toolbar. Most of the buttons you are already aware about. They are more or less similar to those of the buttons which are available in Microsoft Office or Word. But some of the important buttons which you can see here are the continuity check, this button you can see here, and the grid, which helps us to model the network with proper indentation and to check that whether the bus is energized through a swing bus. Okay, I will explain more about this continuity check in my rule of 9. Okay, so this is the project toolbar. It allows you to open, create new projects. The second toolbar among the general purpose toolbar is the mode toolbar. Okay, this mode toolbar is the backbone toolbar, and all the functioning of the software can be controlled through this toolbar. And it has many modes. The first mode is edit mode, you can see here. And the remaining modes are load flow, short circuits, motor startings, harmonics, transient stability. It means all the other type of power system studies, all the type of studies are covered in these different modes, from where you can switch between the edit mode and the system study modes. Okay, I apologize, I think the software is again struggling. Okay, now it's working, alhamdulillah. Okay, now in the edit mode, okay, we can do the network modeling. As you can see, there is an existing ETAP model here. Okay, these are the toolbars, which are AC element toolbars. It contains all the AC elements. It contains everything which you can expect in an industrial electrical installation or residential or commercial or any electrical system which is related to distribution, generation, or even transmission. You will find everything in this toolbar, AC element toolbar. Okay, it comes only under the edit mode. And DC element toolbar, you can see this contains the DC components. Okay, sorry, this is the instrumentation toolbar. This is the DC element toolbar, which is for the DC system modeling. Okay, and the third toolbar is instruments toolbar, which more related to the protection systems. When we are doing the studies like power system coordination study, at that time we use the protection relays or the instruments or the CTs from here. Okay, so these three toolbars are basically for the modeling purpose. You can create the network modeling from these three toolbars, and these three toolbars will be only available when you are in the edit mode. If you go into any other mode, these three toolbars will be hidden and it is interlocked with edit mode. Okay, for example, if I go into the load flow mode, you will see that the toolbars have gone. So it will be only available in the edit mode. Okay, so I hope you understand the mode toolbar, the project toolbar, and the AC, DC, and instruments toolbar, which are available in the edit mode. In order to send them back, you can click on the black area. Okay, then you can see there is another toolbar which is called system toolbar. This system toolbar, some of the buttons are very important, but most of the buttons in this toolbar are not used for distribution network studies. I can give an example, like we are mostly using the one-line diagrams view, so that our workplace or workstation is available to us, where we can do the simulations, we can make the models, right? Also, there are some buttons which are related to the protection coordination study. The protection coordination study, which mainly relates to the coordination of protection devices like protection relays, circuit breakers, or the fuses. So in order to see their behavior, their coordination between each other, we can use this feature, which is star view. It enables us to see the time current characteristic curves. Especially there are some other buttons like underground raceway systems, grounding mesh analysis button, okay, and cable pulling systems. But most of the time for the distribution networks, we are more or less concerned with this option, star systems, one line view, okay. And then we sometimes also need to go into the dumpster. It is just like the recycle bin. Okay, it's a very interesting feature in ETAP. People consider it similar to that of recycle bin, but it do not work like that. I will try to explain some part of the recycle bin, dumpster in this discussion. And these three last features are important for those studies where we have to run multiple scenarios, multiple configurations, multiple study cases. And in my career, mostly when we are doing arc flash studies, we are using this study feature where we have to assess the network under different scenarios for the fault contributions. Okay, normally those who are advanced level users or those who are working in industries and conducting such type of studies where multiple scenarios are required, we are using these features. Okay, so I hope a little introduction, you have gone through the little introduction on system toolbar. One important option in system toolbar is the project view, which can enable you to handle all the different features in the software you can see here. So it means there are some part related to the presentation. Okay, there are some features related to the configuration. I will come to the configuration topic on the 3D database toolbar. this toolbar you can see here. Okay, there are some options related to the study cases, but this is the place where you can see the overall different features of any ongoing project view. Okay, so up till now we have gone through the general toolbars, which contains project toolbar, mode toolbar, and system toolbar. I have also explained you about the network modeling toolbars, okay, which are used for electrical network modeling. And there are some toolbars which are system study specific toolbars. Okay, these two toolbars are very important to understand. Okay, and I will explain them where they are located. So whenever you will switch yourself from edit mode into any of the power system study mode, like you are going to the load flow or short circuit or motor starting or harmonics, there will be always two dedicated toolbars that you will always find inside. Okay, so you can see if I jump into load flow mode, let me bring this system toolbar back to its right position. Okay, so in the load flow mode, you will always find two toolbars, as I told you, which are related to the specific system study. Okay, the first toolbar will be containing some briefcases. Okay, and this type of toolbars are called as study case toolbars. This is one of the most technical toolbar in ETAP software, and one who has properly learned this toolbar and its features is more or less 80% knowing about that particular study. So I don't know when the people are the students are learning by themselves, they put attention to this toolbar or not, but my focus will be to give you more detail about this toolbar in our coming discussion. So study case toolbar is one of the system study toolbar, which is in this case, as we are in the load flow mode, you can see here, this is a load flow study case toolbar, right? And then the other important toolbar within the system study mode is the analysis toolbar. This toolbar contains some buttons which enables us to run the simulations, and some of the buttons which will be frequently repeating, like this bell button, alert view, or the report manager, or the display options. These options will be repeatedly coming in all the analysis toolbars in the rest of the study modes. So you understand that these two toolbars are typical toolbars for all different type of study modes. If I go into the short circuit study mode, you will find now the same two toolbars are now becoming the study case toolbar for short circuit analysis and the analysis toolbar for short circuit analysis. And the buttons would have changed, the features and the inside functionality would have been changed. Okay, but the concept will remain the same, like the functioning of the software will remain the same, study case and the analysis toolbar. And these two type of toolbars are specific to system studies. Again, if we go into the motor starting mode, you will also find again these two toolbars here. So it's important that some of the common features of these two toolbars you learn, that I will try to explain. But the specific features of these two toolbars will be more related about the system study knowledge. Okay, so I hope you have understood the way how these two toolbars are presented, study case and the analysis toolbars, which I am calling them as a system study specific toolbar. Okay, then another toolbar which is very important, which is called 3D database toolbar. Okay, this toolbar is available over here. You see, this is 3D database toolbar. Okay, this 3D database toolbar has three features. One of the feature is revision database, the other feature is presentation, and the third feature is the configuration status. Mostly in our practical projects, we are more concerned about the revision databases and the configurations. How to understand the concept of configurations in this toolbar? When last time I delivered the presentation on system studies, those who have attended the presentation, I explained them a concept that whenever we are assessing the network, we have to investigate the network under different possible configurations. If you can see this presentation. Okay, for example, a same network can be made to operate, to run under different possible scenarios. So when we are working in ETAP software interface, we need to create those different type of configurations in our network building. Okay, so the 3D database toolbar and its feature of configuration will allow you to make these different configurations by changing the breaker statuses. Okay, in order to understand more in detail, the PDF tutorials are available there in this presentation contents, but it's one of the important step in conducting any power system study that you create different type of system operating configurations. And these configurations will be later on considered as one of the function of power system study simulations. Okay, it means you can have 3 or 4 configurations, and similarly you can have 3 or 4 simulations based on different configurations. Okay, so the 3D database toolbar configuration feature will enable you to create different type of configurations into your network model. Okay, and this Rivian database toolbar is more about the equipment properties. Let me give you an example. For example, a factory is newly constructed, and new transformers and new electrical equipments have been erected there. Okay, and after some time, one of the electrical transformer there is going to be upgraded to a higher size rating. Okay, and in order to maintain a revision history, so that any next user who is going to work on ETAP software will have the previous history knowledge or the understanding of the past network, he can check it from the Rivian database toolbar. This option is also sometimes useful when we are doing arc flash analysis, where we want to see what is the behavior of the protection settings. By changing the protection settings on the arc flash levels, we put one type of protection settings under one Rivian database, and we put another type of protection settings for the other Rivian database. And switching these different Rivian databases, we can check the behavior of the network arc flash levels for different type of relay settings. So this can be used based on the engineering requirements. Okay, so this 3D database toolbar is one of the important toolbar which will be required for any type of system study. You cannot proceed for simulations unless you have created some configurations in your project. If it is a simple radial network, you would not be required to create configurations, because radial network means there is only one source of power. Or even double-ended radial network, then you will be required to do some to make some configurations here. Okay, so I will tell you in my rule of 9 where this toolbar will be used. Okay, 3D database toolbar. Okay. Now I will talk about some of the important icons. Okay, I have already explained about the project toolbar, some of the important icons. Then I also explained you about the system toolbar, some of the important icons like dumpster or scenario wizard or the project view. Okay, analysis toolbar has some of the buttons which are repeatedly occurring in the ETAP interface, and it's useful if we discuss today on analysis toolbar some of the important repeatedly found buttons. Okay, as I told you, this analysis toolbar and the study case toolbar, these two toolbars will be only available when you will be in one of the study mode. If you go into the edit mode, which is the network modeling mode, you will not find these toolbars. Okay, so let's go to the edit mode. See, you can see here the two toolbars has disappeared. Okay, so now if I go back into the one of the study mode like load flow mode, you will find this study case toolbar and the analysis toolbar. And this analysis toolbar has 4 options which are repeatedly found: display options, report manager, and alert view. Okay, and sometimes there is also another button, especially if we go into the motor starting toolbar, you will find a plots option here. Okay, so this topic, some important icons on analysis toolbar will help you to understand the features of 4 important buttons in ETAP. If you see here, important features in analysis toolbar, this is the PDF, and I am going to explain these 4 buttons in this discussion where these options are used. Okay, let me take the display options feature first as my initial discussion. Okay, now you can see here okay, so in the load flow mode, I have this option available here, right? And you can see display options will enable me to see all these options. Okay, this display option will allow me to see the results of the simulations under different units, under different parameters. Okay, so whenever we run a simulation, the results will appear in red color, and then this results tab of the display option will be applicable. If you want to see the network building options like generator or power grid, what are the type of informations you want the screen to display, then you have to go into the AC. Okay, for example, if I have a transformer shown in the network, okay, I have modeled it and I want the additional information to be shown on this display of the load flow mode. Okay, I can enable the features here like KV and tab and the grounding configuration and the impedance, and then if I click OK, this information will be appearing just beneath the transformer, you can see here. So it means the display option will enable me to show more and more information on the screen depending upon my requirements. Normally in this mode of system study, like load flow or the other study modes, we do not require to show so much information about the equipment. Okay, we are more interested to see the results. So at that time, we do not show much of the information. But if I go into the edit mode and somebody asks me, how can I control the display informations in this mode? Because there is no button seems to be like that of the television screen. If you carefully look at, you will find this option over here, display options. And this is the place where you can control the amount of information shown on your network modeling. You can see here, I can change how much information I want to show on this display. And this feature is very useful. Sometimes we are not required to show so much information about the equipment. So at that time, we can control the amount of information that you want to show in the workstation. Okay. If I go to the next feature for this analysis toolbar, report manager. This is also a repeatedly occurring option in the analysis toolbar, and you will find this option available in all of the system study modes. This is the report manager here. And if you go into the short circuit study mode, again, you will find a report manager here, similar like the other options. So whenever you are running a simulation and you want to make the reports from ETAP software, the report manager will help you. Okay. So if I go into this report manager, and if I have run a load flow simulation, I want a complete report of the study, I can use this complete feature. Or I want some results, some specific results, I can use these features. I want some summary information, I can use this feature. And I can have different options, like I can see, print it in PDF or MS Word, whatever is my requirement. So this is also one of the repeatedly found buttons in the analysis toolbar. If I go to the third option, alert view, this is very interesting feature. In fact, this is very useful feature for those who are doing actually some ETAP studies. For example, if I go into the load flow mode, if I run a simulation, okay, it will give me the results. Okay, and in these results, I will found that some of the equipments are remained in their original color. Some of the equipments have turned into purple color or magenta color, and some of the equipments have turned into red color. So basically, this bell option or alert view, it will enable us to see where we have problems in our simulation. The problems which are the most critical, we would definitely need to solve those problems. For example, if I run this simulation and I found that the generator has turned into red color, it means this generator is overloaded, or it is suffering from excess reactive power provision to the network, or excess reactive power absorption from the network. So at that time, we have to investigate for the problem and find the solution. So the alert view option will enable you to see what are the different possible hazards or the critical alerts in the network after the simulations are run. If I click this option, it will also show me where those problems are occurring and what are the reasons and what are the set points and what shall be the standard values. Okay, so you can see here, if I have run this simulation, so it is showing me that bus location A, we have an under voltage 94.9. Okay, and the bus was originally 650 volts, but it is operating at 617 volt. So as per IEEE standards 399, we should not have lower than 95% voltage in the network after a successful load flow simulation. So lower than 95% means this is a critical alert for us, and we have to find some ways to improve this situation and to improve this voltage to a higher value. Okay, some of the alerts are marginal, like this is a cable which is rated for 97 amps, but it is running at 96.729 amps, and it is filling the cable ampacity up to 99%. So it is just near to its limit. So it is giving us a marginal alert that if you don't want the network to be, the cable to be damaged, so you should keep this ampacity slightly lower than its rated ampacity. Okay. So here we can see which equipments are going near to their limit and which equipments are exceeding their limits with respect to their characteristics. So alert view is one of the useful option to help the system study engineer realize where are the problems in the network. Furthermore, if you see the last option, plots. This plot option is based on the type of study, like load flow or short circuit studies or protection device coordination studies. These do not require the graphs or the plots. Okay, we are more interested into the tabular results or the tabular simulation results given by the software. In case of motor starting analysis or harmonics analysis or transient stability, we will find this option of plots because we have to investigate the network by studying the different type of waveforms. Okay, so if you see in short circuit mode, you will not find the plots option here. But if you jump into the motor starting mode, you will find the plots option here, and it will allow you to see the different plots: motor starting current plot, or the motor's voltage, terminal voltage plot with respect to the time after the moment the motor has started and it has reached its steady state operating condition. What are the changes in its voltage level? Okay, so from this plots feature, we can investigate the performance of the motor during a starting condition. So this is also one of the repeatedly found options depending from study to study. If you see this PDF, when you will be given the contents, you can find all the details of these 4 buttons in the next pages. Okay. Now we will see the overall interface of the ETAP software. I hope you have gone through the overall interface of the software, and these 30 minutes of discussion would have given you a basic idea what are the different toolbars in the software, and what its interface look like. Okay, I would repeat, some of the toolbars are general purpose toolbar like the project toolbar or the mode toolbar or the system study toolbar. Okay, some of the toolbars are related to the network modeling, AC/DC element tools, or the instruments. Okay, and these 3 toolbars are interlocked to the edit mode. If you switch the edit mode, these 3 toolbars will be disappeared. So these 2 toolbars can only be used as long as you are building an electrical network. Okay, and the 2 toolbars which are specific to the system studies, as you can see here, this one is study case toolbar and the analysis toolbar. These are the 2 toolbars which are specific to a system study, and you will find these toolbars repeatedly in all the modes. The looks will remain the same, but the features inside these toolbars will be changing depending from one study to another study type. So with this, I am end with the first topic of our discussion. I hope this little introduction about the ETAP interface will be useful to you. Now I am going into the most interesting topic of this discussion, the rule of 9. Okay, and why this is important, because everyone who is going to use ETAP software, he should understand what are the series of steps that he must undergo in order to ensure that the study that he has conducted is technically correct. Okay, there is nothing called rule of 9 in any books. It's only my own term that I use to explain to the students or the professionals whenever I get the opportunity to share my knowledge. So the rule of 9 says, for conducting any type of distribution network study, mostly I am working in the distribution sector, there shall be typically 9 steps which an ETAP user shall follow. Okay, so we will see what are those 9 steps, 9 major steps that you shall follow, and it will ensure a correct study simulation in the end. Okay, so we will see it in the next pages. So the first step is, whenever you whenever you create a new project, the first thing is you shall give the project information. Okay, this step is not a technical step. It would not affect the simulation results, but it would definitely give an impression to the person who is going to review your report that whether you are a professional user of ETAP or not. How it works, I will explain you. For example, I have just created a new project. Assume that there is nothing here. So I must tell to the software, or I must input into the software all the relevant information about the project which I am going to work with. Okay, so if you go here, project information, here is the place where I shall give all the details. What will be the benefit if we give all the details here? The benefit will be, when you will run the simulations and you will have the study reports printed, at that time all these informations will be found on your reports created by the software. So normally the students who are in the early stage, they do not look up into this feature and they print the reports without the information, or especially those industrial professionals who are using the software as a casual user. They do not take care of this step, but it's an important step to give a professional look of your report in the end. So this is not a technical step, but it would give a good impression of your study to the next person. So the first step is to give the project information. The second step is enter the project applicable standards. This is very, very important step. And many ETAP users who have not worked properly or who have not gained experience in this field, they sometimes miss this step, and they do not know the importance of this step. If you see here, the ETAP is giving you the options to consider one out of the two standards, IEC or NC, and the different frequency levels and the systems of unit. Okay, and date format. Date format is not important, but the first three options are very important. How? I will explain you. There are two standards which are globally used by the engineering companies for conducting power system studies. If I'm doing a fault analysis, it can be done as per IEC standard or it can be done as per NC standard. So if we keep our option into IEC, we will be only seeing in the software interface the relevant terms as per IEC standard. Okay, and the same standard will be applicable for all the simulations. Okay, and the methodology and all the equations will be applicable from that standard, IEC standard. Let's take an example of a short circuit study. Short circuit study is done as per IEC 60909. So if we are keeping the standard IEC, by default, ETAP will take this option in the software as IEC standard. All the simulations, it will be considered by default IEC. You can switch this information within the software interface at different places. But if you are sure that you are working on IEC standard, in that case, you really don't need to change the options again and again inside the software. Just keep the option in the beginning, just at here at this place, and it will be uniform throughout the project simulations and throughout the project engineering works. Okay, changing the standard at the later stage time would create some discrepancies, so it's always advisable to pick the right standard in the beginning. Okay, now the other option is the frequency. Frequency has a very important role in some of the studies. Let's take an example. For any conductor, we have resistance offered by the conductor or the reactance offered by the conductor. Okay, and the reactance is a function of inductive reactance, for example, function of frequency 2 pi fl. So by changing the frequency from 50 to 60 hertz, what we are doing, we are changing the resistance or the impedance of a cable. Okay, so impedance is a function of frequency in the end. So by not correcting the right frequency, it will not enable the ETAP software to bring the correct results. In case of load flow, I have given you example of this inductive reactance, or even you can think of the capacitive reactance 1/2 pi fc. So if you are in a country like Pakistan, there we have 50 hertz frequency. In countries like US, 60 hertz frequency. So depending upon region to region, your frequency can change. And some of the studies which are frequency related studies, they can have different results based on your selection here. Another example of frequency can be thought of the harmonics. In case of 50 hertz frequency, we will have the odd order harmonics like 50 into 1, 50 into 3, 50 into 5. So you will have 50, 100, 150 as the harmonic orders. But in 60 hertz, these orders will change. Okay. Third example of how the frequency is impacting your studies can be thought of the protection studies. Whenever you have a 60 hertz system, okay, the 60 hertz system means, let me try to explain you by the Paint software. Okay, this is your 60 hertz system. 60 hertz means this waveform will have time period of 1/60 seconds. And if you convert it into decimals, it will be around 16.66 milliseconds. Okay, so we are saying that in case of a 60 hertz system, we have one cycle length of 16.66 milliseconds. But if we have a 50 hertz system, we will have one cycle equal to 20 milliseconds. If you divide 50 by 1, like this is actually the formula, T is equal to 1/f. Okay, so in this case, you will have 20 millisecond time period of one cycle. So some of the protection relay manufacturers, whenever they give the time dial settings, or they give the settings for the short circuit clearance, the instantaneous feature of the protection relays, they used to ask us in form of cycles. So if we are using a 60 hertz system, we will be giving wrong input if the actual network is 50 hertz. So this is a very important point, especially for those users who are using ETAP for protection coordination study, that always make sure that you are selecting the right frequency, because it will affect the duration to clear the fault depending upon your selection. Okay. The third option is the metric or English units. As you know, again, we have two type of system of units. One is from the Britishers and the other type of system units of system international units. Okay. In metric unit, we used to have the lengths in meters, the cable cross sections in squares. Okay. And on the other side, in case of the other unit system English, we will have the length in feet and the cable size in as American wire gauge or KC Mills or MCM. So there are two type of cable sizes based on English system or the metric system. So it's important that you are selecting the right option here. It will not create any discrepancy when you are going to select the cable in the ETAP software. Okay. So this is the second step, which is important for you to fine tune in the ETAP software when you are creating a new project. The third step is to build up your model. This is called network modeling. Mostly the users who start working on the ETAP software, they will start directly on the step number 3. They forgot to implement what has to be done in step 1 and 2, and it creates many discrepancies in the simulation time, and it also gives a wrong impression or a bad impression to the one who will review your work. So always follow step 1 and step 2. Step 3, I'm splitting up it into three steps. The first one is to enable the grid option and to enable the continuity check. And the third option is start building the electrical network. Okay. So what we have to do if you are doing the step number 3, so there is a feature in the project toolbar. You can see here, this feature, show grid lines. Okay. So you can see these are the grid lines found in the ETAP software, and these grid lines can be made to go with more like brightness by changing the options from here. There are options available here inside this button where you can make them more brighter or lighter. Okay. Yeah, from here you can change its color. You can see here I'm making it as navy blue. So you can see it has changed, but do not make it into so much dark color that it confuses your network. Okay. I'm just giving you an example that we can also manipulate the sharpness of these grids. Okay. So let me bring back it into the normal color, which is easily identifiable. Let's make it gray color. Okay. So now it's again turned into slightly dull color. So now you can see here, first thing is you have to enable the grid option. The second option is continuity check. Okay. This continuity check is important, especially when you are working on network modeling and you want to make sure that your connections are properly done. Okay. If you are not enabling the continuity check, it will not give you a sense of energization of the equipment. For example, let me try to explain you. I have this breaker. I'm opening this breaker. You can see at this time the continuity check is enabled. Okay. If I'm disabling this check, it will turn this de-energized feeder into the same color as that of the other network. Okay. So what will happen? It will not give you the feeling that, okay, this is energized or not energized. So it's always advisable to keep the continuity check when you are doing the network modeling, so that you are comfortable with the energization of the equipments depending upon your network model. Okay. If I go into the technical depth of this continuity check, even you can go into the help of this ETAP software, you will find that continuity check doesn't mean the connection correctness. Okay. Continuity check means the given component or the given bus or the given electrical equipment is connected to a swing source directly or indirectly. So swing source is something which is mandatory for running any type of study. Okay. If you do not have any swing source in the network, swing source or swing bus in the network, your network cannot be energized. Let me give you an example. In this case, the swing source is considered as this utility. If I disable this feature, I make it as voltage control source, the whole network will be de-energized. So those who are the power system analysis students, they would have studied it in their course that swing bus is just like a reference bus or slack bus or infinite power bus that enables us to run the simulations and that enables us to run the load flow solutions. Okay. So if we are enabling this continuity check, it means the component, all the components, if it is turned into bright color, it means that component is directly or indirectly energized through the swing bus. Okay. Without the swing bus, your network cannot be energized, and you shall have at least one swing bus in the network for conducting any type of simulation in ETAP software. Okay. So now after you have enabled the grid, you have enabled the continuity check. Then the third thing is network modeling. You have the AC/DC element toolbars, which will enable you to do the network modeling. You can bring the grid, you can bring the transformers, motors, cables, generators, VFDs, breakers, fuses, contactors, whatever, all the electrical installation components you can find from these two toolbars, and you can use them in network modeling. ETAP tutorials and the YouTube videos can help you to understand how to model these equipments. But the most important thing is you shall be physically aware about how this equipment works. Okay. So for example, if you are modeling a transformer, you shall be physically familiar with the nameplate data of the transformer. Only then you will be able to understand how you are going to model the transformer. In this discussion, I am not going into the modeling details, but the thing is, whenever you will pick and drop any component, then you have to go into the component and you have to give the information to the software about all these informations. Some of the tabs are not relevant to the study. Some of the tabs are relevant to your particular study. So you shall have understanding of the equipment data so that you can input those information into the given equipment after during the modeling time of the network. Okay. Now you can see here as the third step, you 3C step, you are building the electrical network, AC/DC elements. Okay. Now let us see step number 4, creating various network operating configurations. Okay. So as I told you, after you are done with the network modeling, okay, using the edit mode, you should not jump directly into any of the study mode, because there is one very important step which is called as defining the configurations. Okay. So using this feature, we can define different configurations of the network: normal operating configuration, abnormal operating configuration, like single-ended operation of a dual-ended switchgear. Okay. So by using this feature of 3D database toolbar configurations, you can create different configurations. Okay. And one of these configurations will be considered at the time of simulation. When you change the configuration, your simulation results will also vary. Okay. So now in step number 4, we are creating few configurations in the ETAP software depending upon our study requirements. In step number 5, now it is the time to go into the required study mode. So from the load flow mode, we are jumping into the one of the study mode. As per IEEE 399, it is always required whenever we have a network, we have always required to conduct a load flow simulation to see the base conditions in the network, if the network will be successfully running under dated normal operations. Okay, then we can jump into the other type of studies like short circuits or arc flash, but the first base level study is always a load flow study. So in this example, for example, we are going from edit into the load flow mode. So this is a very simple step. Just switch yourself from the edit mode, which is the modeling mode, into the required study mode. Okay. Step number 6. I would say this is the most technical step in complete ETAP software. Okay. Because in order to correctly give the inputs into ETAP software, you should have these 3 prerequisites. Okay. Like if you are going to create some study case into the given project, why this is required? It is required because whenever you are doing a study, there are some set points behind that study. For example, if you want to go a load flow study, for running a load flow study, you must tell the software that what type of load flow method I'm using. Am I using Gauss-Seidel method or Newton-Raphson method or fast decoupled method, or whatever the possible methods are there. We have to tell to the software. If we are not fine-tuning this step, or we are not defining the right study cases, the ETAP will consider the default options, and it may result into the wrong results or incorrect results if you are not fine-tuning the right options here. Okay, so in step 6, we are creating various study cases, okay, as per the guidelines of the local standards and the consultants. We have local specifications which gives us guidelines what shall be the set points in these options inside this study case. Okay, and we have to fine-tune these options based on our knowledge of the international standards, IEEE and IC standards. I will show you one example to give you the idea how this option works. And the third thing is the engineering judgment. Like some of the options also require you to have some engineering judgment, like the fundamentals of the electrical power systems engineering acquired from international standards and your own engineering knowledge. So based on these three set points, these three criteria, you are going to fine tune the study cases. Let us see how it works. For example, I'm in the load flow mode. Okay, I shall not run the simulation directly from the analysis mode. If you are taking any ETAP training and the ETAP trainer is just asking you to make the network and run the simulation, there is 100% chance that he is not the right trainer for you, because he has missed a very important part in all this simulation, which is related to the study case editor. Okay, so always give more and more detail time to this type of toolbar, which will enable you to give the set points for a given system study. Let us try to see how it works. In case of load flow study, you will find there is an option edit study case. By default, you will have only one study case created here, but you can create multiple study case scenarios. Okay, so if I go into this option, you will find we have 4 tabs here: info, loading, adjustment, alert. Emergency is not relevant for most of the offline studies. It's related to the online studies. So I do not encourage you to go into this tab, those who are doing the studies in the offices before the actual installations. So info, loading, adjustment, and alert tab, these are the 4 different tabs that you must be familiar with. Okay, you must be familiar which options I have to select here. If we are not selecting the right option, or we are not giving the right set points for the study, most likely your study will end up into a wrong set of results. Okay, so those who are pursuing for any trainings, they must ask the trainers or the mentors, please tell us what these options are, each and every options, how they work. Without understanding these options, you cannot be confident in use of your software. And how you can fine tune these options properly? Only after you have the knowledge of the international standards, you know the local guidelines or the specifications, and you have some engineering judgment. Okay, as I told you, sometimes the local specifications require you to run the simulations considering Newton-Raphson method. So you have to select the Newton-Raphson method. And in my experience, I found that this is one of the most accurate method. Although we can change the methods depending upon the different type of distribution networks or transmission line networks, but as a typical option, I consider Newton-Raphson method. And this option has feature that it will give you the results. It will converge the solution with less number of iterations as compared to Gauss-Seidel. And it's also faster method as compared to the basic Gauss-Seidel method. Okay, in Gauss-Seidel method, it's more time consuming. At the same time, the results are not precise in Gauss-Seidel method. Okay, in case of loading tab, you will find there are many features. Load diversity factor, you should understand what these features are. The best way is to look up into the help file. The help file will explain you everything about these buttons. But again, I would say the help file will not give you all the information, because some of the options will require you to jump into the international standards. I will give you some example. In the short circuit study case toolbar, there are some options like adjustments. You should be familiar with all these options if you are saying that you know how to run a simulation, or you are doing a correct simulation. Okay, and alerts is one of the most important tab in any of the study case toolbar, where you give your set points. So if you are saying that if your bus is 100 amps bus, and after running a simulation, your bus is passing 105 amps, so the bus will be appearing as red color, because you are giving critical alert up to 100% loading. And if that bus is loaded up to 96 amps, it will give you a marginal alert, magenta color, because you are between 95 to 100% of the loading. And if that bus is working fine, healthy, then it will have no any alert view, or there is no indication on the software. So basically you are giving the set points for your alerts related to critical alerts and marginal alerts. Okay, so if somebody has changed these alerts options here, then he will not be able to see where is the problem in the network. So you must consider this important toolbar, load flow or the study case toolbar. You must fine tune all the options. You must ask the trainers that what are these options, how to consider these options, what are the basis for selecting the options. Okay, let me give you another example. In case of short circuit analysis, you can see here, in the past, ETAP was used for the short circuit mode for short circuit as well as arc flash, but in the newer versions, arc flash has been separated. So now you can see here, there is one study case created for IEC 60909 type of study. Like this short circuit simulation is based on IEC 60909. If I go into this, you will find that again, another set of selections would have come. Okay, and if you go into the standards, it will ask you, do you want to conduct the study as per IEC standard or ANSI standard? Since in the beginning we selected the IC standard, so by default the IC will be selected here. But if we have selected the NC, then the option found here will be NC standard. And you can see there are many options here which will be required from you to select in order to run the simulation. Okay. For example, if you are selecting the maximum short circuit values, it will give some other set of results. Okay. And where these maximum short circuit values are required when you are defining the equipment short circuit withstand capability. And if you are not fine tuning it to the maximum and your default option is minimum, you will get lower values and you will not be able to size the equipment properly. Okay. So it's important that you know all these concepts from the international standards. Those who want to see what is C factor, what is the idea behind the C factor, what is the X by R ratio for peak short circuit currents. It cannot be explained in 2 hours discussion, but my intention is to give you the motivation that which areas you should learn by your own or going into the international standards. You can jump into IEC 60909. It has explained everything what these options are and where to use which option. Okay. And if you are not fine tuning it properly, these options, your results would not be correct. Okay. So info standard, adjustment and alert. Again, here he's giving you the options like marginal alerts, you have to keep 90% and critical alerts 100%. Let me give you example. If there is a bus bar of 50 kiloampere short circuit withstand capability. So if this 50 kiloampere bus bar, rated bus bar is expecting a fault current or prospective short circuit current of 55 kiloampere, it means the bus bracing has been exceeded. So in that case, your critical alert will come. So if you are not assigning the right alert set points here, your simulations will not identify the problem areas. Okay. So I hope you understand that why these options are important, because these are the set points or these are the prerequisites before running the simulations. Okay. And how you are going to fine tune these options? It can be fine tuned after you have the knowledge of that particular system study. I clearly explained in my last discussion session that if you want to learn the depth of the studies, you want to understand the concepts, you should also refer to IEEE 399, the Brown book. It contains chapters like load flow, short circuits, protection coordination, motor starting. Learning from there, then you will come into this window or this section of the ETAP software. You will be very much comfortable with the options given here. So without learning from there and without making the fundamentals from the international standards, you will get confused. And even if you go into the help file, it will not tell you everything directly. Some of the things it will be explained and some of the things it will take you back into the standards. For example, there is one feature of short circuit studies. If we are conducting it as per IC standards. Okay. Yeah, for example, this X by R for peak kiloamperes, okay, method A, B, and C. If you go there, it will explain you that method A is applicable for radial networks, method C is useful for the mesh networks, but it will not explain you what are mesh networks. So in order to understand what are mesh networks, you have to jump into the IC standard applicable for this study, IEC 60909. In that standard, chapter number 4, standard number 4, you will find the explanation of the mesh network, how mesh networks are made and what are the important concepts of a mesh network. And if you are not selecting the options properly here, it would result into a different values of the peak currents, and these peak currents are used for the bus bar electrodynamic withstands. Okay, so using the right method will enable you to see the right short circuit levels, and those short circuit levels will enable you to select the right bus with the right withstand capability. Okay, so I mean to say that here you have all the options which are related to the IC standard. And if you have the standard knowledge, you know how to apply the standard properly, then you can fine tune these options. So you must ask your trainer or coach, whoever from where you are going to learn or you are doing by yourself struggle, then go into the right standards and search by them yourself that what are these options and how they work. Okay. So without selecting the right options in each of these two toolbars, you will not be able to ensure correct results in the end. Okay. So I'm saying here that beware. Many non-professional ETAP users ignore this step or casually treat this step. However, this step significantly determines the correctness of the results. So never miss this step in your simulations. Okay. And to properly fine-tune these options, you should have fulfilled these 3 criteria as a ETAP user. Step number 7 is Now jumping into the analysis toolbar. This analysis toolbar will be actually, if you see here, this is the analysis toolbar. Okay, so after you have given the configurations, after you have given the set points in the study case toolbar, now you have two functions. One is the configurations function, which is selected from here, normal configuration or the abnormal configuration. Different configurations can be created. The PDF that I have shared, it contains all the information how to create the configurations. Okay, selecting one of the configurations, selecting one of the study cases from here, then you will run the simulation. Your simulation will be only giving you the same results if you are selecting the same configuration and the study case. By changing the configuration, you will have different set of results. So after fine-tuning the right configuration, after defining the right study case, then you can run the simulation and you will be able to see what are the network results. And in load flow study, we are normally interested to find the bus voltages, line currents, active reactive power flows. We're interested to see the cable voltage drops. We are finding the equipment ratings are as per the required load flow results or not. Sometimes some transformers can be found as overloaded. Sometimes some cable can be found as overloaded. So we can fine tune those components, or we can rearrange the load configurations to bring the results within the acceptable limit. Okay, so it means in step number 7, we are running the simulations from the analysis toolbar. Point to remember, there can be multiple simulations. Like when you are running the simulation button on analysis toolbar, it's not possible you are running one simulation. There will be multiple simulations, one after the other, on the basis of predefined configurations. Like it can be normal load flow scenario, minimum system load flow scenario, or maximum system load flow configuration. See, for example, step number 4, like step number 4, which we discussed. And there can be multiple predefined study cases. So by using one type of study case and one type of configuration, you can run one type of simulation, and that simulation will be actually one set of simulation result. Then you can go into another set of simulation, which based on other type of configuration and other type of study cases. So step number 7 is running the simulations by considering multiple simulation scenarios, and we are assessing the network performance based on different simulation, different configurations and different study cases. Step number 8 is actually when you run the simulations, then you will have the results on your window, on your ETAP window, and these results are to be interpreted. Like when you run a simulation, for example, I am running a simulation. Let me make it dull because the black color is appearing. Okay, so now you can see here, when I run the simulation, I found that cable 11 is found as some color is the color has been changed. Okay, if I go into the alert view, it will indicate me the problem. Okay, for example, the cable 11 has, cable 11 has overload problem. You can see here, this cable has overload problem because the cable is rated for 97 amps and it is operating at 103 amps. Okay, so what has to be done? Either we have to increase the cable size, or we have to reduce the load to let this alert disappear. Okay, so let me try to correct this problem. So what I will do, I will go into the cable editor. Okay, instead of going during the load flow mode, you can go back into the edit mode. From there you can go into the cable. Okay, and you can increase the size, because increasing the size will increase the cable ampacity. Okay, so it will be able to carry more currents. Okay, so if I click OK now, and now if I go into the load flow mode and I run the simulation, now you can see there is no change of the color. Even you will not find cable 11 as overloaded cable, because now the cable is operating within its rated conditions. Okay, so it means whenever you will run the simulations, you will be getting results, and these results are to be analyzed. These results are to be interpreted by the power systems engineer. One of the important study review will be, you will see all the equipments like transformers, cables, breakers, and the buses. Are they properly sized? None of them are going into critical alert, or none of them is going into marginal alert. Okay, there is one deficiency in ETAP software, I would say, that it do not gives you the indication of the oversizing. Like if this transformer is 100% loaded or more than 95% loaded, it will give you alert as critical or marginal alert. But if this transformer is considered as double size transformer, like the running load flows are giving you 100 kVA and the transformer is considered as 500 kVA, so it will not give you any indication. So here comes the engineering judgment that you should not select the transformer with much more than your requirements. So normally there are some factors, growth factor, and there are some calculations, demand calculations, which enable you to size the transformers properly. But accordingly, you have to consider the transformer kV rating. The ETAP will not indicate you the oversizing of an equipment. It will only indicate you the undersizing of your equipment. Okay. So now you can see here in step number 8, we are running the simulations. We will be shown with critical alerts based on our alert settings inside the study case toolbar. There are alert settings, as I have shown you, 95%, 100%. Okay. And then by analyzing those results, we can go back into the edit mode and do some fine tuning, change some network configuration, and then we come back into this step number 8 and run the simulations until we are getting green results. It means we are not getting any critical alert or marginal alert. This is step number 8. Okay. And finally, in step number 9, when we have found that all of our simulations, which are function of study cases or functions of configurations, are not going into any critical or marginal alerts, then we can go into printing the reports from the report manager, printing the electrical single line diagrams showing the simulation results. For example, if I want to print these results into a single line diagram format, I can go here. Okay, I can print these single lines from here. Okay, these single lines will be showing me the results of the load flow. Okay, and then in addition, the third and most important thing is you have to also write a detailed report narrative. Like, it's not advisable anywhere that you are using ETAP created reports for submission purpose. Okay, ETAP generated reports will be also considered as attachments to your main report, and when you will be preparing a main report, that report will be the first document which the consultant will review, which someone who is going to review the study will review. Okay, so this report narrative is the main document where you will explain what you have done, what is the study you are conducting, what is the network, what are the international standards, what are the study results, what are the recommendations, what are the conclusions, and you attach the ETAP reports in the form of single line diagrams. You attach the reports created from the software, you attach the reference drawings and the documents. Okay, so then that one report will be submitted in the end. So by going through all these 9 steps, you are not going to miss any important step when you are doing a typical network distribution study. Okay, so I hope I am done with this presentations rule of 9. It will enable you to remember all the 9 steps, which are to be gone one by one, taken one by one, to ensure that you are doing a proper simulation or correct simulation. Okay, the last topic is conducting a load flow study on a industrial network. Okay, and for this case study, I have considered the example given in IEEE 399, chapter number 6. Okay, this is the example network. Now, those who want to learn load flow subject more in detail, I strongly encourage you to read chapter 6 of IEEE 399. It contains all the fundamental knowledge about load flow study, and it also gives you a detailed explanation on this industrial example. Okay, what I will do, I have this network example and I will simulate the same example into the ETAP software, and we will see how the results explained in this example from IEEE 399 are matching to the ETAP results. And it will also give us an idea how the simulations are run and how to interpret the results, and what problems can be faced and how to improve those problems. Okay, now you can see here this example. Okay, now you will be thinking how I can simulate this is an example in ETAP, where this is a very complex network. I don't have ETAP model. So an interesting thing or a good news for all of you is this example is readily available into the ETAP default library. Most of the ETAP users do not know this example is available there, and they cannot solve this example from the ETAP software because they do not know that this example is available there. So I will show you from here how you can access this example. You just need to go into open. You normally C drive is the place where your ETAP is installed, and you will go into examples other. Okay, you will find a folder called examples other, or other examples, I guess. Examples I see. example other, you can see here. So example other, you will find different type of examples already built into the ETAP library. Okay, some of the famous examples are IEEE 4 bus system, IEEE 9 bus system. And for understanding this example, you can go into IEEE standard 399 and you will click this option. Okay, so then it will open that particular example which is already created in the ETAP software, and you can understand this example from the ETAP interface. Okay, so now you can see this. When it will be open, you can see. So this is a very smart way of learning from IEEE 399, because you don't need to make any network model. Okay, this example will be readily available. To see this example, I want to explain the network. Basically, this is an industrial facility, a rolling mill. Okay, and in this industrial facility, there are two main generators, Gen 1 and Gen 2 on the right side. And we have the utility which is feeding in parallel to these generators to share the power. Okay. And in this example, we will run a load flow analysis simulation. Okay. And we will see what can be the different problems can occur in this network and how to solve those problems. Okay. So as our initial task for this example, I would like to show you that how this example is shown in IEEE. It will give you this example name information. Okay. It will give you all the modeling data, which is already modeled in the network in the ETAP software. You can see it is also giving you the information about the generation data, the cable data. For those who want to explore more about the modeling of the equipments, they can see this data and relate it with the ETAP software inputs. Okay, so after doing all the basic network modeling, we are finally done with the network modeling, and we will have this type of electrical network. Okay, of course we have to also fine tune all the steady case options, but for the sake of this simulation, I will mainly focus on what the example says here. If you see, after we are running the load flow simulation, on the right side I'm keeping the example from IEEE 399, and on the left side I'm keeping the example. On the right side I'm opening the software. Okay, so I will just run the simulation. Okay, just keeping the options and the features as existing there. And I will try to see how these informations and what are the outcome of the simulation appearing into the software. I have 12 minutes remaining, and I hope I will finish it in 12 minutes. You can see here, when we run the simulation, the standard is saying voltage at all the buses are generally somehow low, averaging around 97 per unit. So if you see, by running the simulation, you see all the low voltage buses, bus voltages, whether medium voltage, low voltage, they are 99.7, okay, 99.72%. So you can see all the network buses are above 95%. Okay, if they are below 95%, then it would be a problem, and the bus colors would become red colored or critical alerted buses. Okay, so when we run the base case simulation without creating any problem in the network, we found that all the buses are within 95% criteria of IEEE 399. The network has been modeled in such a fashion that none of the transformers are actually overloaded or none of the cables are overloaded. So you can see here that the first observation from by running the simulation says all the network bus voltages are above 97%, which is a healthy condition. Okay. Then the second point is saying two plant generators at bus 4 and 5 supply 87% of the real power load, with the remainder coming from the utility. For understanding this statement, you need to see what are the active and reactive power injection from the sources. Like we have a Gen 1 supplying 1100 kilowatt as active power and 4628 kVAR as reactive power. So these are P and Qs from the generator into the network. Similarly, the utility is contributing 2906 active power and 196 kVAR as reactive power. Okay, and similarly the third generator on the right side. So what he is saying, let us do this mathematics here. You can see here, these are the results taken directly from the ETAP software for the sake of saving our time. So what he is saying, the two plant generators at bus 4 and 50 supply 87% of the real power load. So I can show here that these are 11,000 kilowatt, 8,000 kilowatt. If I add them together, so here is the total active power contribution from the generators, and the active power contribution from the utility is 2906. Okay, so when I sum up all of them, it means the total active power contribution into the network will be 21906. Okay, this is sum of all the three active powers. Okay, and if we divide the ratio of the two generator active power with the overall active power flowing into the network, we found that it's 87%. if you do this calculation by taking the result from ETAP and verifying it. Okay, so you can see here that it's matching with what it's saying. So it means it's showing exactly the same results which are shown into the example. And these results in this example, these results are shown as these screenshots from another software. This is not ETAP software, but I think this is PSSE software. But you can see the beauty that whatever the results, the standard is showing here that these results are exactly matching. For example, here in this case, it is showing some other software interface, and here he is showing the active-reactive flows. Okay, so in another format. In case of ETAP software, it has some other format. Okay, so because we are learning this example from ETAP interface, so we are not studying these single lines. We are directly seeing the results from ETAP software. Okay, so now going back into the analysis part. I hope you can understand the second part. I will also share this Excel sheet so that you can do this mathematics again. And you will find that most of the active power flows are contributed from the generators. What does it mean? It means we are less loading the utility power source, and we are creating, or the network is being powered more from its local resources. Okay, so there will be less electricity bills because we are taking less from WAPDA or Saudi Electricity Company or whatever the grid authority company is there. The third thing is the reactive power requirements of the systems are also supplied. Now the second point was about the active power. Okay, the third point is about the reactive power. The reactive power is primarily coming from the plant generation. If you see here, you can see the two generators are supplying more reactive power, whereas the reactive power coming from utility is 196 kVAR only. So this is the third verification on this study. And the fourth study verification is loading on all the transformers and the cables are within the operating range. So it means whoever has designed this network as a case study, he has taken care for all the network sizings. You will not find any cables oversized, undersized, or transformers undersized. So there is no cable or transformer or any electrical component going into critical or marginal alerts. Maybe there are some marginal alerts, but the marginal alerts are not to be worried about. Okay, because marginal alerts means that they are closer to the limits, but they're not exceeding the limits given by the user. Okay, so this is a normal healthy scenario. In this scenario, you don't need to be worried about. Now the standard is saying that one of the most critical contingencies will be outage of one of the plant's generator. Okay, so what he's saying that let us make a problem here. In this normal running scenario, everything is fine. But what happens if one of the generator goes out of service? So let us do this exercise. I will open this breaker. Okay, and now I will run the simulation. So by running the simulation, what will happen? Because we have less power sources available, so you will see that some of the network buses, especially which are farther from the sources, because of the impedances, they will be suffering from voltage less than 95%. Whereas the standard says, international standard says, your voltage shall be minimum 95%. So when one of the generator was out of service, you have come across the problem of under voltage in the network. Okay, this is the problem. In fact, this is one of the most repeatedly found problems when we run the simulations. When we investigate the network under any contingency condition, we find that we have under voltage problems in the network. So what can be the solutions to overcome this under voltage problem? One solution can be to increase the cable sizes, right? Because by increasing the cable sizes, we are decreasing the cable impedance. Okay, because resistance is equal to rho L over A. A is the area of the cross section. When we increase the cable size, it will increase the ampacity of the cable, and it will increase the ampacity of the cable. By increasing the area of the cable, we are decreasing the resistance of the cable. Okay, rho L over A. So by increasing the cable size, we are reducing the resistance, and by reducing the resistance, we are having much better voltage profile, because less resistance means less voltage drop, right? So it means that are we going to change all the cable sizes in this network? Of course, this is not a practical solution, that if you have under voltage problem, you are increasing the cable sizes throughout the network, especially for an existing installation. Okay, so what can be the most optimal solution to handle this problem? Okay, so one of the best way to solve this problem is to change the transformer taps. Okay, this is one of the most recommended solution to optimize the network under voltage problems. So let us try to see how we can apply this feature into the ETAP software. We have 93.8% voltage here, 93.83 here, and some voltage levels shown here, 93.9, which is below the required limit. So because these three buses bus 28T10 sec, 33T10 MCC, 41 lights, they are being powered from the nearest transformer from here, this 1.5 MVA transformer, right? So what I'm doing, I am just changing the tap of the transformer. So I'm lowering the tap by minus 2.5%, and I'm running the simulation now. So you will find that now the voltage has recovered 96.36, 96.45, 96.39. Okay, so it means now we are in the safe range of the voltage limits as per the standard requirement, and we no longer are required to worry about the voltage drops, because the equipments function in a very good fashion, or in a healthy manner, if they are given more than 95% of the rated voltage. Okay, so by changing the transformer taps, we are solving the problem of under voltage. But there can be many other options, like we can introduce the capacitor banks into the network. By introducing the capacitor banks, the excess reactive powers given by the capacitor banks will boost the voltage level. Okay, and another option can be you can shift the loads, because the more or more inductive loads are concentrated at one part of a network, you will have lesser and lesser voltages, especially when we are away from the sources. So by adjusting the loads, by distributing the loads properly in the electrical network, we will have a much better voltage profile. But most of the times, a practical solution to achieve a fine voltage profile above 95% is to play with the transformer taps. Some students can ask why I have lowered the transformer tap in order to gain the voltage to the, or restore the voltage to the right value, because I have put minus 2.5% tap, whereas my voltages are to be raised. Okay, so the reason is, it's a very interesting topic, or it's a very important question you can be asked about, why lowering the tap will improve the voltage. So I'm just going to explain this answer in the last 2 minutes. That whenever we have a transformer, you know that the transformer has primary and secondary windings, right? We have, this is primary winding of the transformer, this is secondary winding of the transformer. Okay, when I say tap of the transformer, it means there are some tappings from the transformer winding which will enable us to remove or include some of the winding part. Okay, so by changing the taps on the primary side, for example, if I am saying I'm making minus 2.5% tap here, what does it physically means? It means that out of 100% of the tap of the transformer, I am removing 2.5% of the tap of the transformer. It means I am removing some part of the tap from the primary side. So the voltage on the primary side is considered as volt per turn. Okay, so when I say I am removing some of the part of the winding from the primary side, it means my volt per turn will increase, right? If I add more winding into the primary side, it will decrease my volt per turn. If I reduce some part of the winding, it will increase my volt per turn. So in order to bring the voltage higher on the secondary side, we are required to raise and to lower the tap of the transformer by minus 2.5 or minus 5%. Lowering the tap of the transformer means we are removing some part of the winding. In E-tap interface, we give minus 2.5 or minus 5%. In case of on-load type changings, we can have up to 17 settings on the higher side and on the lower side. Up to 32 or 33 type changings are there. But for a normal distribution transformer, we have 5 settings: 0, plus minus 2.5%, and plus minus 5%. Okay, so by lowering the tap on the primary side, we are actually increasing the volt per turn, and as a result, on the secondary side, we will have a better voltage profile. If previously the equipments were 93% giving voltage on the network, by reducing the tap on the primary side, it will maybe improve up to 96%, as you have seen here, right, in the software. So you can see now the profile is improved. So wherever you have such problems, before the installation of the network, you can mitigate these problems by adjusting the tap of the transformer, and you can have the voltage levels under the acceptable limits from IEEE. So I hope I am done with the presentation. I've explained you that what are the most important things to consider when we are in the simulations. Okay. Any questions?
Sir, can I make an announcement if you allow?
Yes, please.
Dear participants, the link to the feedback form is in the description. Do fill that feedback form for the certificates. So there are some questions. Can I ask you?
Yes, please.
The first question is, can we find symmetrical faults with this software?
Yes, of course. Okay, this is a technical question. Now, if you go into the short circuit mode, okay, Now the question is symmetrical faults or asymmetrical faults. Okay, so when I say symmetrical faults, you mean to say that triple line fault or triple line to ground fault. Okay, so normally when we are saying symmetrical faults, we are interested in the worst case type of the faults, because triple line faults or triple line to ground faults are the worst case faults. So when you run the simulations considering this option, run three-phase device duty, it will allow you to run symmetrical faults, three-phase faults. Okay, but if you want to go for asymmetrical faults like line to ground fault or double line fault or triple double line to ground fault, then you should not select this option when running the simulation. In that case, you should run the other options. You can see run three-phase line to ground, line to line, triple line to ground. So this option will give you all the symmetrical, asymmetrical, every type of faults in the window. Okay, but if you are running the first option, it will give you only the symmetrical faults, the three-phase faults. Okay, there is another concept called asymmetrical fault analysis based on sequence components. Okay, the asymmetrical faults cannot be calculated just by per unit method. For calculating the asymmetrical faults, there is a technique called Fortescue theorem, which enables us to calculate the zero sequences, positive sequences, negative sequences. So for running the Fortescue theorem application or for running asymmetrical faults, you should not use the first button. Okay, but for mostly for the equipment sizing, we are running asymmetrical faults and the three-phase faults just by running on the first option, which is called the equipment device duty. One important thing to remember, it's not necessary that all the time the symmetrical faults or three-phase faults are of the highest value. Sometimes there are some conditions where your asymmetrical faults are higher than the three-phase symmetrical faults, like when you are having a transformer with solidly grounded configuration, or you are having a generator with solidly grounded configuration. So at that place, line to ground faults will be of higher magnitude as compared to three-phase symmetrical faults. So depending upon scenario to scenario, you can size your equipments, but the three-phase symmetrical faults can be simulated from the first option here. And if you want to see all the other type of faults, three-phase, double line to ground, you can use the third option here, this run three-phase line to line option. Yes. Okay. Any other question, Marine?
Sir, next question is explain dumpster.
Dumpster. Okay. I think I forgot to explain the dumpster feature. I will explain you here. Okay. Now, how the dumpster is working, it's not just like a recycle bin. First thing you have to understand, recycle bin is something where you will throw the things and you can go inside and restore it. In ETAP software, whenever you are deleting, cutting, or copying any element, it will always go into the dumpster. Let me take you an example. Like I'm selecting this option, this component, okay, and I am doing a cut feature. If I do a cut feature, it seems that it has been cut, but it has gone into the dumpster. See, this is the dumpster. So what will happen if you want to paste it? It will not come with the same component tag, because pasting it means that it will create a copy of it. Okay, never ever use the paste feature in ETAP for any function. Most of the times people use paste features very frequently, but in such situation where you are cutting something, you must right click and say move from dumpster. Okay, so then you will be able to bring it back. How it is different, this dumpster feature is different from recycle bin, because in recycle bin, if you want to bring that component, you have to go into the recycle bin and you have to click restore, but there is no restore button here. In the dumpster, you will not find any restoration function here, and you can only purge this element, like kill it from the software or remove it permanently from this program by using this feature, purge or purge all. Maybe there are many components in the dumpster. So if you want to bring it back, you have to simply right click here and say move from dumpster. This component will be back to the window. So even if you are cutting it, it will be going into the dumpster. But in case of cutting, you will be bringing it back by moving from dumpster. If you are deleting it by using delete button of the from the keyboard, okay, again it will go into the dumpster. You can see here. And in order to bring it back, if you want to make it, you want to do undo. So you should not do undo option from here. ETAP undo will not work. Okay, you have to right click and move from dumpster. Again, this deleted component will be back. Also, if you are copying this button, like if I'm copying it, it will create a copy of it with another tag number in the dumpster. You can see now this is T10MCC1. So now if I'm saying paste, it will not bring T10MCC1. It may bring ETAP MCC2 because I am not bringing it back from the dumpster. Say I'm saying paste. So it is bringing ETAP MCC2. Okay, so it means there is one serial number or one sequence item missed out. It means it is not the same component which you have copied, or it has created a new component in the dumpster and it has brought another copy of it. So in order to bring it back properly, you have to consider move from dumpster. So this is MCC1, which was when you did copied, it went into the dumpster as a copy of the first component, and then when you said move from dumpster, it was back to the main window. So dumpster is something which is tricky. Sometimes the student face difficulty of tags mismatching. For example, I am deleting it, okay, and I want to copy it, and I want to give a name of MCC1. If I say MCC1, you will find that it will give me an alarm or alert that you must have a unique component. Why it happens? Because already a copy is available for MCC1 in its dumpster. If you want to bring it back, then you have to delete it. You have to delete it, and you have to go like last in first out. This is the concept. If I want to bring my MCC1, I should first bring MCC3 and then MCC2 and 1 together, because I deleted them together. If I say MCC move from dumpster, it brings MCC3. If I again go move from dumpster, it will bring MCC2. And then if I go back again, I do this feature, then it will bring MCC1. So I hope you can understand that how the dumpster feature works. It is just like a stack, where whenever you do delete, cut, or copy, it will go into the stack. And if you are selecting the option of move from dumpster, it will bring the last in, like the last which was deleted or cut or copy, that will be brought back into the main window. So if you want to kill it, or if you want to delete this component from like you want to remove this from the ETAP software, then you should go into the dumpster, select that particular component, and use the option of purge, as I have shown you. Like select this. This is dumpster. Sorry, this is dumpster here. There is no item deleted. I am deleting it. Okay. And now I'm going back to the dumpster. I am selecting this. And if I say purge, it will delete this item permanently from ETAP. Now you cannot bring it back. Or even if I consider purge all, whatever many components are there in the dumpster, they will be deleted for permanently. Okay. So I hope my answer has been given. Any other question?
Sir, there is another question. How to connect any DC generation unit before inverter in solid state transformer, as there is no for bus?
Okay, well, I have no experience in DC power systems studies. Okay, we are doing some part of the DC, which is mostly in the arc flash studies. Okay, DC generators I have not worked with, so I don't want to mislead you or misguide you for something which I am not conversant with. Next.
So next is cable libraries are not available. Those cable which we use in Pakistan, how can we make a library of those cable which are available? Can you please explain in short?
Very good question. Yeah, it is a very good question, because ETAP default library has some international vendors database. Okay, and Pakistan cables or FR cables or any local vendor cables are not mostly available in the ETAP software. Okay, so now the first thing is, before modeling the cable, you must know that what are the most important cable parameters which are to be taken from the cable manufacturer's database. Okay, so in order to make it simple, I would mention here that there are 3 important cable databases, cable parameters, which are to be asked or which are to be taken from the cable manufacturer's database. Any cable, whether it is 3-core cable or single core cable, it would have a resistance value, its inductance value. Both these values are given in ohms per kilometer. Okay, and ohms per kilometer. Sometimes they give you the inductance value in millihenries or henries, then you can use 2 pi FL to bring into the ohms format. Okay, so these are the 2 most important values of a cable. And the third important value is the cable ampacity. Okay, for any cable, there is an ampacity table given by the vendor based on different installation conditions, based on different sizes. So for example, I'm considering 4 mm square cable. Okay, and the ampacity of 4 mm square cable. Even there are many other features in the cable vendor database, like this is a copper cable with XLPE insulation, and it is steel wire armored. There is PVC coating. There are many informations about the cable, but the most important thing is that it's a copper cable, 4 mm square copper cable with XLPE insulation. And the vendor would have given you the ampacity value, like this 4 mm square cable has 20 amps, just assume. Okay, so it means this is the third important parameter, 20 amps, resistance, and the reactance. So whenever you are going to work with some consultant which asks you that I want the cable parameters as per the local manufacturer's database, then you have to update the ETAP library. Now here comes the ETAP part. After you know the basics, you have to come to the ETAP part. In the library, you will find there is a feature called, okay, ETAP has a default library which is accessible from the cable editor. Like if I'm opening any cable, you can access the default library from here, right? If you click here, it will show you what are the different possible sources from where the cable database has been created. For example, I might have already created some Pakistan cables databases here based on my project needs sometimes, okay, but I will tell you how to create a new cable in ETAP. So the best way and the easiest way is go into the ETAP library option, okay, go there in the cables option, cable, okay. There are two approaches. One approach is to make the cable from scratch. It will be much time taking. Making a cable from scratch means you are not using any of the existing informations. So it's always advisable that you do not make a cable from scratch, like from zero level. So just fine tune one of the cables, which is your desired cable you want to make. Like I want to make a cable for 60 hertz system, and it would be a copper cable with 1 kV voltage grade, okay. And ultimately you will come up with few like manufacturers which has all these cable sizes available. You can see these are the different cable sizes available for this manufacturer. And for example, I want to create a 4 mm square cable, so I will simply select one of the manufacturer and I will make a copy of this manufacturer. Like I am not using the data of, I am not like changing the data of this manufacturer, but I am using the existing database of this manufacturer, okay. So what I will do, I will create the same source with making a copy, and I would say that, okay, I am calling this source as FR cables, okay. Now what I am doing, then I should confirm that, okay, the rest of the parameters are same: cable conductor, insulation, frequency, installation conditions, blah blah blah, okay. Also you can put these degrees or the above ground or underground ampasties. The ampasties are not to be inputted. These are only the temperature of the conductor temperatures, okay. Just you can make a copy of it. This is not a technical part, but just make sure that you are considering the right voltage levels, some of the important features. When you will create it, it will come here as FR cables. Now this FR cable is the same as that of the previous manufacturer, Hizang. The only thing is the name is changed, FR cables. After you created a new manufacturer here, then you go into the edit properties, okay. And in the edit properties, you will find all the parameters of the cables, okay, given by the Hizang cable manufacturer, but now it's called as FR cables. And here, whichever the cable you want to properly like give the manufacturer's input, like you have a 4 mm square cable, the manufacturer has given you 55 ampere ampacity, so you just overwrite it over here, 55 ampere, okay. In case of buried installation, in case of conduit installation, for example, the manufacturer is saying 40 amps, so make it 40 amps, okay. After you update the information for 4 mm square cable over here, and then this is the ampacity part. As I told you, first important thing is ampacity, okay. Then resistance and reactance are the remaining things. Go back into the same window and you have impedance tab. Here you can find for different sizes of the cables under the FR cables manufacturer, you have the values given 90% resistance, and you have many other values like zero sequence. For the normal AC distribution studies, network studies, we are not concerned about the zero sequence and positive sequence. We just focus on the positive sequence impedances, which are the impedances given in the cable manufacturer's database. So for example, for this cable, 4 mm square cable, the existing resistance in ohm per kilometer is 5.88 ohms per kilometer, okay. And then you have resistance in ohms per kilometer, reactance in ohms per kilometer for the 4 mm square cable here. So what you are going to do, you are just overriding these values based on the manufacturer data for how many type of cables. Like you might have 4 mm square cable in your project or 6 mm square. For all different possible cables which are to be used in your project, you can update the database here and click OK. Then if it will ask you, do you want to save these changes to the library? Say yes, okay. It will not affect the existing library, but it will add another manufacturer in your cable database. Now if I go back into the cables library, like here, okay, and if I go back into the library, if I filter my manufacturer, you will find FR cables listed over here. See, if I select this FR cable and if I select 4 mm square cable here, then it would give me the same ampacity that I have input into the software. So it would take into consideration the same resistance and the reactance values that I have already input into the ETAP2 database. So this is the way we can model the cables into ETAP library. Any question?
So next question is, why in sequence values voltages are better in phase A than B and C while having a short circuit study, for example, of a 4-bus system?
Why in sequence values voltages are better in phase A than B and C while having a short circuit study, for example, of a 4-bus system? Okay, it's more specific about the simulation. I have to investigate it more in detail. I cannot give the answer just by this question without having the context about the project. I have to see what are the inputs given into the project. And the main thing is, if you are running a short circuit study, why you are required to go into the sequence values? My concern is sequence values are not considered in the short circuit study time. Sequence values are considered for the protection relays to understand the negative underbalance or under voltage or over voltage conditions in the network. So sequence values are not useful when we are doing a short circuit study for finding the withstand capability of the equipments. They are useful for giving the protection settings, directional settings. So I don't think this question will have any impact on your study outcomes. Okay, but still, if you have questions, we can have a discussion separately. After all the students go, I can see more in detail about that question and I will answer it by the end of this discussion. Yeah.
So next question is, how to solve generator overexcited and underexcited issues in ETAP?
Okay, this is also very good technical question. Now, for understanding this technical question, first thing is you have to understand what is the generator capability curve. Okay, for any generator, there is a curve given by the manufacturer, which is called generator capability curve. And where this curve has to be given into the ETAP software, there is a capability area. Okay, there you have to model the curve. Okay, so first thing is you have to understand the concept. So the concept is any generator is rated for a given capability range. And this curve will look like this. Okay, what does it mean? It has two axes. You can see here, these are the two axes. This axis is megawatt or active power axis, and this axis is megavar positive and megavar negative. Okay, so when I say megavar, or you can change the unit to kilowatt, or basically this is Q axis and this is P axis, simply active power and reactive power axis. And this area I would say has this green area. I mean, this area is called generator capability curve. Okay, what does it mean? It means that this particular generator has operational healthy performance within this capability curve. How to understand this point? Like, I'm going to make a small diagram here that this is your generator and this is your system. System means the loads. Okay, each generator is rated for a suitable amount of active or reactive power supply to the network. Okay, so this generator can provide us some amount of P and some amount of Q to the network. If the load increase, like if the inductive loads are increased, then it will increase the reactive power demand from the generator. Okay, and if the resistive loads are increased, then it will increase the active power. Inductive loads are combination of active and reactive power demand, and resistive loads are purely for the active power. So what happens if the required, for example, the generator is able to generate only 4 kilowatt active power and it can generate 4 kVARs. Okay, just an example. How can we see this? We can see this from the curve, because each point here in the generator is showing you active and reactive power set points. This is one set point, like this is the operational value of the generator. Like a generator is currently providing 4 kWs and 4 kilowatts and kVARs. Maybe this point can move, like this point keep on moving under different operational scenarios. Sometimes this point is here, it relates to this megawatt and this megawatt. Sometimes the point can come here. Okay, this relates to this megawatt and this megawatt. So depending upon the load characteristics or load demand, this point is going to be changed. Whenever you have a situation where this point goes out of this range, like what does it mean? The generator is going to provide more active power, like it is providing more reactive power, which is the Q power, more reactive power to the network. It will jump through this reactive capability limit, which is dangerous for the generator, and it will damage the generator. Okay, so we never let this situation to come. Before reaching this situation, the protections inside the generator will come on for the safeguarding the generator, and it will shut the generator, it will cut off the load, or it will do some load shedding. Okay, so whenever this situation will come, it is called overexcitation situation of the generator, where we are drawing more reactive power than the acceptable limit of the reactive power. Okay, if for example you are crossing this range, this is your overloading. If you are going above this range, outside this curve, you are going into overexcitation region, where your generator cannot supply that much amount of reactive power which you are trying to draw from the generator. Okay, so there are three concepts: overloading, overexcitation, and underexcitation. What does underexcitation means? Underexcitation actually relates to the lower region, this region. Underexcitation means that there are some loads in the network which are injecting reactive power into the network, like capacitor banks or long transmission lines. So if you have excess of reactive power in the network and this reactive power is not being used by inductive loads in the network, that reactive power will flow back into the generator. Okay. So this type of behavior, whenever this type of load flow situations are coming, we are calling it as underexcited operation. Okay. Underexcited operation is not a normal operation. Under a normal operation, we always have the active and reactive power flowing from the generator into the network. This is called overexcitation operation of the generator, where the generator is providing active and reactive power towards the network. So in both the scenarios, if the generator is absorbing more reactive power, it will shift the operating point out of this region. This is more and more reactive power absorption. When I say the point is crossing this area, it means this is more and more reactive power drawn from the generator. But in the lower region, we means that if the point is going below the lower region, then it means it is absorbing more and more reactive power. It's again dangerous to the generator. So it's important that the generator shall be operated within its capability limit. It should not allow the load should not draw more reactive power from its generator, and it should not draw more active power from the generator within its limiting value. And similarly for the reactive power absorption, it should not inject excess reactive power into the generator. In order to check the excitation ranges, first thing is you have to properly model the capability curve here. It's again a detailed discussion how to model it. I have a detailed presentation. I made it for explaining how to input this model, reactive capability limit, from the vendor data up to the ETAP modeling. I will share if that student want this reactive capability limit creation, how to model it. Okay, there are step-by-step procedures. Now, once we are properly doing this capability limit, creating the capability limit of the generator, and then in the load flow study, if you go here in the study case editor, again, it's very important that study case is very important for the purpose of running the right simulations. You have option of overexcitation, upper and the critical and the marginal limits, and the underexcitation. So by giving the ranges from here, what it will do, it will check the actual flowing outward active power from the generator. If that active power is more than the capability limit as ETAP has taken the inputs in the beginning, then it will give you an alert of overloading. For active power alerts, it will give you overloading, which is shown here. This is the overloading alert. This region is called overloading alert, where we have 100% to 95%. So for example, if generator is 100 kilowatt, able to deliver 100 kilowatt, and your load is trying to draw 105 kilowatt, so the generator will run into overload condition. The second type of problem is overexcitation condition. So what is happening if you have excess of reactive power demand from the network? So if that the generator has capability limit which is allowing 100 kVAR to be delivered, but you are trying to draw more than 100 kVAR, then it will give you overexcitation on the generator. This will be another type of alarm on the generator, and you have to reduce your load so that your load will be operating within the generator capability curve. And if you have excess of reactive power in the system, what will happen? It will be absorbed by the generator, and the generator may go into the underexcitation alert state, which means that now the generator is absorbing more and more reactive power in himself. Okay, so that is again a dangerous situation. So first thing is to properly model the generator capability curve, and then fine tune the limits which you want to respect when your simulations are done, and then you will be taking care about the overexcitation, underexcitation, and overload conditions of a generator.
Okay, sir. Last question is: are there any standards for marine-based load analysis?
Okay, basically, marine-based load analysis are called those type of systems which are actually not connected to the main grid. These are separately excited systems. Okay, and these systems are something which do not have connection to the real ground. You can think of a ship which has a totally like localized electrical distribution network. From the load flow perspective, in my experience, I have not I do not know about any load flow like related marine studies. Okay, normally we use the same feature for the marine as well as the ground-based installations for the load flow. But for short circuit, I would like to add here that, for example, if you are going to the short circuit study, you will find there are different simulations methods available, like IEEE method, NC method. These are two methods. This is one method. IEEE or NC are the same methods. If you want to go with IC standard, it will also allow you the options with NC or IC. Okay, but there is one type of simulation. If you see here, where is that? Yeah, I think that will come into the IC selection. I will go and select the IC option here. Okay, where we have IC 61363. Okay, so if you are going into a marine network, you shall run IC 61363 short circuit analysis. You should not run 60909 analysis, or you should not run these analyses. These first type of simulations are only for ground-based systems, which are normal distribution networks, which are connected with the grid or with the local generations having a ground available for the earth, right? But if you have marine installations, in that case, IEC 61363 is the applicable simulation standard for conducting marine-based short-circuit simulations. But for the load flow, I do not have any like awareness that it can be, there be any specific standard for marine-based load flow studies or not. Normally, in the ETAP software, load flow studies are done based on the same concept, the fundamental concepts given in IEEE 399, and PQ, delta F, these are the 4 parameters which are to be estimated in the load flow, and which is done with the same method, Newton-Raphson, Gauss-Seidel, or fast decoupled methods. So there is no distinction in marine or ground-based installations for load flow discussion. So I think the time is up.
Yes, sir. That was the last question. Thank you very much, sir, for your precious time and this wonderful workshop on ETAP. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you are welcome.
I ended up this session with an announcement that the recordings and the presentation slides will be shared with everyone. And I repeat that do fill the link to the feedback form is in the description. Do fill that feedback form to get the certificate. Thank you very much all the participants for participating in this event. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.
Sorry, 1 minute.
Yes,
sorry to interrupt you.
Yes, sir.
Those specific questions, like there was one question and that need a detailed discussion. So I would say that we can say Allah Hafiz to all of them, but those who still want to ask some questions, or those who want to stay, they can connect with me, okay, through LinkedIn, and refer to the same question that they have asked, who has asked, and I will try to see that particular case based on that context of that question. Okay.
Yes. If anyone want to ask any question, connect with the sir on LinkedIn. Thank you very much.
Yeah, bye. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.